Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu says that the Taliban have taken control of Afghanistan's border with Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. In an interview, Shoigu said that the Taliban leaders have promised not to attack the neighboring countries. This comes after the group claimed to have completely captured the two provinces of Badakhshan and Baghlan. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden urged the Afghan leaders to come together and fight for their nation. Iraqi Foreign Minister Dr. Fuad Hussain says that the Kashmir dispute must be resolved through dialogue. He was addressing a press conference along with his Pakistani counterpart Shah Mahmood Qureshi in Islamabad. On his part, Qureshi said that the two sides also discussed the Afghan peace process. In Algeria, 42 people, including 25 soldiers, have died in wildfires that erupted in the east of the capital, Algiers. Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman says that the government has asked for help from the international community. He said they are also in talks with partners to hire planes to extinguish the fires. Brazil has reported over 1,200 deaths and more than 34,000 infections overnight. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 81 more people have lost their lives to the virus, while nearly 4,800 tested positive in the last 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4.3 million lives and infected over 204 million people so far. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu says that the Taliban have taken control of Afghanistan's border with Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. In an interview, Shoigu says the Taliban leaders have promised not to attack the neighboring countries. This comes after the group claimed to have completely captured the two provinces of Badakhshan and Baghlan, while Afghan officials said the security forces have retaken control of Farah, the capital of the eponymous province. Earlier, Afghan soldiers who retreated to an airport in the captured Kunduz city surrendered to the Taliban with all their weapons. Meanwhile, President Ashraf Ghani has met Marshal Abdul Rashid Dostum to discuss the security situation in the north. Talking to the media, Marshal Dostum said the Taliban have no way to escape and they will be crushed. Moreover, Pakistan, China, Russia, and the United States are set to meet in Doha today to further exchange views on the issue. Russia says it will regularly conduct drills with its Central Asian allies near the Afghan border. Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu says that the practice will help ensure the security preparations in case of a potential attack. Shoigu said that the hasty withdrawal of foreign troops from Afghanistan triggered a swift degradation of the situation. He warned of the rise of terrorists and a surge in their activity. The Russian defense minister said that this situation requires taking appropriate measures. The remarks came as Russia completed joint exercises on the Afghan border with troops from Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has appreciated Turkey's strong and consistent support on the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. He said this during a meeting with Turkey's Defense Minister Hulusi Akar in Islamabad. The Prime Minister's office said he reiterated that Pakistan will continue to make every effort to help advance the Afghan peace process. Khan also underlined the importance of an inclusive, broad-based and comprehensive Afghan settlement. The Prime Minister also expressed deep concern over the forest fires in Turkey and offered assistance to Ankara. Earlier, the visiting dignitary called on the Army Chief, General Qamar Javed Bajwa, to discuss the Afghan peace process. Iraqi Foreign Minister Dr. Fuad Hussain says that the Kashmir dispute must be resolved through dialogue. He was addressing a press conference along with his Pakistani counterpart Shah Mahmood Qureshi in Islamabad. The Iraqi top diplomat has expressed concern over the ongoing unrest in Afghanistan. Dr. Fawad Hussein said instability in this region will also affect Iraq and other countries. On his part, Qureshi said despite propaganda against Pakistan, Islamabad will continue to play its role in the Afghan peace process. He said the two sides discussed facilitation of visa processes for Pakistanis in especially the Islamic month of Muharram. Earlier, the two signed different memorandums of understanding. In Myanmar, at least 3 people have died after reportedly jumping from an apartment to escape a security forces raid. Several others have been critically injured in the incident that occurred in Yangon's Bahotong district. The UN Special Envoy on Myanmar, Christine Schreiner-Bergner, has warned of a full-scale civil war in the country. She said the military ruler, Min Aung Hlaing, appears determined to solidify his grip on power after taking on the prime minister's role. Meanwhile, Myanmar's foreign minister says China will provide $6 million to fund development projects in the country. Earlier, Washington announced $50 million aid for the COVID-19 relief program. North Korea says the United States and South Korea are risking a huge security crisis by choosing to escalate tensions. This comes a day after Supreme Leader's sister, Kim Yo-jong, warned Seoul and Washington over annual joint military drills. A top Workers' Party official, Kim Yong-chol, said that the two responded to Pyongyang's goodwill with hostile acts. In a statement, Kim said South Korea defied the opportunity to make a turn in relations. He warned that Seoul will pay dearly for choosing its alliance with the United States over peace between the Koreas. Meanwhile, Pyongyang refused to answer South Korea's hotline calls for the second consecutive day. A Chinese court has convicted a Canadian businessman of espionage, sentencing him to 11 years in prison. The Dandong Immediate Court said Michael Spavor was involved in the crime of illegal provision of state secrets abroad. In a statement, the court said that the convict's personal assets in China will be confiscated and he will be deported. However, the statement did not explicitly state when the deportation would take place. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has called Sparov's sentencing as unacceptable and unjust. Spavor was detained in December 2018, days after Canada arrested Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou. His sentencing comes as Meng's lawyers in Canada make a final push to convince the court they're not to extradite her to the United States. Meanwhile, China has urged the European Union to earnestly respect the spirit of the rule of law and the country's judicial sovereignty. This comes after the EU External Action Service expressed concern over the death penalty verdict of a convicted Canadian drug smuggler. The Chinese mission to the EU termed the statement a reckless interference in China's internal affairs. A spokesperson for the mission called on the body to stop making irresponsible remarks. In a statement, he said every country takes a hard line on drug-related crimes. The spokesperson added that the death sentence for drug-related crimes will help deter and prevent such menaces. Germany has arrested a British man on suspicion of spying for the Russian intelligence service. Prosecutors say the man is suspected of passing documents to Moscow in exchange for cash. They said the apartment and the workplace of the man had been searched. The prosecutors noted that he will be brought before an investigation judge later on Wednesday. The man at the British Embassy in Berlin has been identified only as David S. The prosecutors said his arrest was the result of a joint investigation by German and British authorities. Confirming the arrest, British police said that the man is 57 years old. Brazil has reported over 1,200 deaths and more than 34,000 infections overnight. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4.3 million lives and infected over 204 million people so far. More in this report. The recent surge of COVID-19, driven by the Indian Delta variant, has worsened the global coronavirus vaccine divide. The World Health Organization has urged the 20 most powerful nations to overturn the disgraceful global imbalance in access to vaccines. China says it has sent some 770 million doses of vaccines to over 100 countries and organizations, ranking first in the world in terms of vaccine donations. The United Kingdom is preparing to offer COVID-19 booster jabs in the country from the next month. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Angela Merkel says her country's vaccination drive is not satisfactory.
Jetzt haben wir genug Impfstoff.
We now have enough vaccines and we must lobby so that people can get vaccinated. On an European scale, we are no longer at the top. There is a number of countries which do better and which are more vaccination friendly. As of today, 55.1% of the population is fully vaccinated and 62.5% have been vaccinated once.
The Delta variant is now wreaking havoc in the Oceania. New Zealand has designated Indonesia and Fiji as very high-risk countries due to the escalating COVID-19 case numbers. Australia has also extended lockdown in its second biggest city of Melbourne for a second week amid surging Delta cases. Meanwhile, South Korea continues to grapple with its worst outbreak to date due to the Delta variant and reported record new daily cases.
With the recent spread of the more transmissible Delta virus, the number of confirmed cases is increasing, showing mass infection cases from workplace, indoor sports facilities, churches, and nursing hospitals. Along with that, the rate of investigating the path of infection is also rising, which means silent spreaders within communities are increasing.
In Thailand, police fired tear gas and rubber bullets at protesters calling for the government to resign over its handling of the pandemic. Meanwhile, in the U.S. state of Louisiana, hospitals are struggling to keep up with a huge surge in COVID-19 patients, also fueled by the Delta variant. Pakistan has reported 81 deaths from coronavirus in the past 24 hours, raising the toll to 24,085. The health ministry says over 4,800 people tested positive in the past 24 hours. The positivity rate of the overnight cases was 7.5. Pakistan has so far reported over 1,080,000 cases. The ministry says more than 972,000 people have recovered from the disease. It noted over 39 million doses of vaccine have been administered to date. Pakistan is observing National Minority Day to commemorate the contribution of minorities to the progress of the country. In a historic speech on this day in 1947, Quaid-e-Azam pledged to protect minorities' rights in the newly created country. Muhammad Ali Jinnah said that the state has no business to be interfering in the individual's religion, caste, or creed. Events, seminars, and social gatherings are arranged across the country by members of various religious minorities. In their messages, President Arif Alvi and Prime Minister Imran Khan promised protection of all rights of minorities living in Pakistan. Alvi said that the government has been making consistent efforts for the welfare and facilitation of minorities. Khan noted that the government has empowered the Minority Commission to play its mandated role in an effective manner. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Amnesty International says the Ethiopian government forces have been sexually abusing women and girls in the restive Tigray region. The watchdog says it interviewed medical professionals, humanitarian workers, and 63 survivors of sexual violence. In its report, the Amnesty said that the survivors had been gang raped while held captive for weeks. 28 survivors identified Eritrean forces as the sole perpetrators of rape. The Amnesty said that sexual violence has been used as a weapon of war to inflict lasting physical and psychological damage. It said these occurrences constitute war crimes and may also amount to crimes against humanity. In the United States, New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo has resigned after an inquiry found he sexually harassed 11 women, but he denies any wrongdoing. The Democrat has faced pressure from his own party to resign since last week, including from President Joe Biden. In a televised address, Cuomo said that the resignation goes into effect in 14 days. Cuomo said he accepts full responsibility for what he characterized as ill-conceived attempts to be affectionate or humorous. Power will now be transferred to Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, who will be the first woman to lead New York. Joe Biden welcomed the governor's announcement, saying he respects Cuomo's decision. The United States Senate has passed a $1 trillion infrastructure bill, marking a big step towards President Joe Biden's domestic agenda. 69 members of the chamber voted in favor of the bill, while 30 against it. The bill will provide the nation's biggest investment in decades in roads, bridges, airports, and waterways. Under the budget plan, Senate committees will have to top-line spending levels for a wide range of federal initiatives. Biden touted the bill as a transformational, saying that the deal proves that democracy can still work.
For the Republicans who supported this bill, you showed a lot of courage. And I want to personally thank you for that. And I've called most of you on the phone to do just that. You have, and no doubt you will, disagree with me on many issues. But where we can agree, we should. And here on this bill, we prove that we can still come together to do big things, important things for the American people.
The United States and Mexico have vowed to expand their cooperation to manage orderly, safe, and regular migration flows. Top U.S. Homeland and National Security officials met with Mexican Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard in Mexico City. In a tweet, Ebrard termed the meeting productive, saying the bilateral ties are headed in the right direction. In a statement, the Mexican government said that the meeting analyzed the recent data on irregular migratory flows in the region. It said Ebrard emphasized the importance of investing in public policies that generate employment in the northern Central America. Earlier, Mexican President López Obrador discussed migration and other issues with U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. Latvia has imposed a state of emergency along the border with Belarus over inflow of illegal migrants. The country's parliament decided to keep the state of emergency till the 10th of November. Latvia's interior minister said that security measures on the border will be stepped up immediately. Over the past 5 days alone, some 283 trespassers were detained on the border. Overall, this year, 343 illegal migrants have been detained. 42 people, including 25 soldiers, have died in Algeria amid wildfires that erupted in the east of the capital, Algiers. Prime Minister Imran bin Abdulrahman says that the government has sought help from the international community. More in this report. Death, destruction, and despair trail the tracks of the wildfires that are raging in various locations across the world. Algeria's defense ministry says several soldiers have been badly injured with burns. Dozens of fires started in the Kabyle region near Algiers and elsewhere, burning houses and trees and killing cattle. Meanwhile, the European Union says it is mobilizing one of Europe's biggest ever common firefighting operations to help the affected countries. This comes as Greece struggles with wildfires ravaging the island of Evia. Meanwhile, Turkey has contained as many as 274 forest fires, while one continues to burn in the Aegean province of Mugula. Over in Peru, the Air Force is called to help battle the wildfires in the country's Cusco region.
We are trying to manage and control the fire. Why? Because as you can see from the helicopter, the fire is very big. So what we want to do and what we are doing is more than just putting it out. It is about controlling so that it doesn't extend further through the area of Lucre.
In Bolivia, wildfires are sweeping across the country's eastern lowlands. They have burned through over 100,000 hectares of forest in the department of Santa Cruz. Attempts to curb the flames have been unsuccessful amid strong winds.
The fire has given us no respite. We have been trying to stop the fire for 4 or 5 days and the weather changes are playing tricks on us. We are coordinating with the police and other institutions to reduce the traffic on the road until the intensity of the fires decreases. Those of us who are here can feel the high temperature and it is oppressive. We will continue fighting for our Chiquitania.
In the United States, the Dixie Fire burning in Northern California has charred some 500,000 acres, making it the second largest wildfire in state history. Temperatures have risen across the Pacific Northwest as residents of Portland, Oregon and Washington prepare for a third heat wave. Meanwhile, in Canada, the White Rock Lake fire continued to smolder in British Columbia. In Chile, a decade-long drought in the capital, Santiago, has gone from bad to worse due to scorching Julys. Officials say that such happenings at the time of the year when the city is usually in rain and snow are clear evidence of global warming. More in this report. A lack of precipitation this year has left the towering and typically snow-capped Andes above Santiago mostly bare, reservoir levels low, and farm fields parched. The city's central weather station recorded just 78 millimeters of rainfall so far this year. It is drastically less than last year's 180 millimeters and an average amount of 252 millimeters.
We are facing the worst hydrological crisis, the worst drought in our history. We are in the 13th year of drought. We have never had more than 4 consecutive years before. This has been the driest period of Chile's history since the start of the registers.
Some scientists and politicians in Chile are warning of growing and potentially irreversible water shortages in the central region. Officials have warned that two rivers, the Mapocho and the Maipo, that provide Santiago with water are drier than they were in 2019, the driest year in the country's entire history.
Much of the effects of climate change in the short term and medium term are irreversible. So unfortunately, it is unlikely that the precipitations in Chile's central area of the 80s and 90s will return. That we will recover that type of climate in regards to the temperatures and of extraordinary precipitation. That's unlikely from here on towards the middle of the century.
In a recent report, the United Nations has warned that extreme heat waves, which not long ago struck once every 50 years, are now to be expected once per decade. It said that droughts and downpours might also be much more frequent. European stocks have cautiously risen, with investors monitoring COVID-19 developments and key economic data. London's FTSE led the regional gains, advancing nearly 0.5%. FTSE MBI in Italy also rose more than 0.25%. CAC 40 in Paris added close to 0.25%. Frankfurt DAX and the European Pan Stock Exchange 600 hovered just above the flat line. India's top wrestler Vinesh Phoghat has been suspended for misconduct at the Tokyo Olympics. The Wrestling Federation of India says that the suspension follows 3 counters of indiscipline. The federation said Phoghat refused to share an athlete's village room with another compatriot. It noted that she did not wear the team's official shirt in the competition and rejected to train with the rest of the team. The 26-year-old hails from the famed wrestling dynasty and was India's top medal hopes in the games. However, she crashed out of the quarterfinals of the 53-kilogram event. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at indus.news.